Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's coming up to 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys Tonight.
I will. I mean, I'll tell Emily off later, but because I know she started the swearing. But
it doesn't matter enough. The fact that he tried to steal the last election, the fact that he was prepared to subvert the entire democratic process.
The left-wing media meltdown keeps going.
Got it totally wrong. I thought Kamala Harris would win, and I believed she would win comfortably. I thought it would be over quite quickly. Despite the polls showing 50-50. Why?
And it keeps going.
Good morning, everybody. Slightly blown away by the news from America. I just don't get it.
But any moment now.
We did it, Joe.
A historic moment as Kamala Harris will concede defeat to President Trump live on this show. That could literally be in just a couple of seconds, so stay tuned. Also,
did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath.
David Lammy surely has to go now. And surely Keir Starmer's compromised as well, isn't he? And get a load of this.
You were also saying that he was a misogynist and racist. I also heard that. I heard you say that. I did hear you say that.
Hollywood superstar Rob Schneider teed off on Ed Balls this morning.
I would just warn your viewers that that free speech is under attack in the UK, and it is under assault.
Well, I've got him on my show, and he gets stuck in again. Also, the disgusting pro-Palestine Remembrance Sunday protest in Birmingham is going ahead. I speak to a Birmingham-based war veteran who's absolutely fuming, and
we're doing this to produce food that keeps you alive. I mean, I don't know how hard that is to understand for people in Westminster. Nobody needs anybody more in the UK than we need a farmer. I don't understand. They're killing the hand that feeds them, literally.
One farmer, not that one, has reportedly taken his own life in response to Labour's cruel inheritance tax raid. Would you support a farmer's strike? I've got tomorrow's front pages tonight with the director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Oh, and should we just check in on how that left-wing meltdown was going?
We have to make sure that he doesn't get in, because he is... he's a monster.
Good. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. I've just drunk a pint of Rory Stewart's tears. Right, there we go. Anyway, let's whiz ourselves over to Washington, D.C., can we? Because Kamala Harris is due to speak at her supporters event outside of Howard University in Washington, D.C. She's congratulated Trump for his victory in the race for the presidency of the United States, gaining a historic second term. Now, Trump passed the critical threshold of 270 electoral college votes with a projected win in the state of Wisconsin. So, look, we're going to keep a close eye on that podium. She could be emerging any moment now. But before we do all of that, and we'll cut away to it if she emerges, you don't have to be a fan of President Trump to be a massive fan of this. The left-wing liberal tears are flowing today. Suck it up, buttercups. Here's Florence of Belgravia himself, Rory Stewart, proudly predicting a Harris win.
I am incredibly confident that Kamala Harris is going to win this, and win this by a large margin. And I would bet £100,000.
Oh, Lord.
I'm very, very confident Kamala Harris will win.
And here is Alistair Campbell's own personal lapdog now.
I think I was wrong because I'm an optimist. And I hate the idea of being right pessimistically. I think you can be a false prophet and right. You can align yourself with the worst instincts of humanity. You can assume...
Don't worry, Rory. Alistair will let you sleep at the foot of his bed tonight for a little bit of comfort. James O'Brien's taking it well.
Doesn't matter enough. The fact that he tried to steal the last election, the fact that he was prepared to subvert the entire democratic process up to and including.
Oh, and little Miss Impartiality, Emily Maitlis, she lost the plot.
When Donald Trump talked about the eating cats and dogs, half of America was just thinking, this is batshit. I can't believe what he's saying. This is going to be the end of him.
Stop swearing. And I will. I mean, I'll tell Emily off later, but because I know she started the swearing. But it may be the middle of the night in Britain, but they're still a little bit sensitive about that stuff.
I think we can check on Emily Maitlis now, actually. Let's just see how she's getting on. Oh, there she is with a face like she's chewing a wasp. ITV's Tom Bradby has taken time off from stroking Meghan Markle's hair to speak on behalf of Britain, saying that Trump's a fascist.
There will be a lot of people watching back home who saw what General Kelly said, who saw what General Milley said, and just will not be able to conceive that the most powerful democratic country in the world has elected somebody who people closest to him called a fascist.
Now, how's it all going for the old lovey liberal celebrities like former comedian Dom Jolly?
It just totally blows me away that a man who clearly cares about no one but himself, I mean literally no one but himself, a total sociopath, who basically got so angry that he got beaten in an election that he orchestrated a coup and refused to accept he'd lost, has been voted back in.
Oh, not very jolly at the moment. Oh, you may. At least Scottish actor Brian Cox managed to keep it together.
You have to make sure that he doesn't get in, because he is... he's a monster.
What about some of the print journalists? The Guardian immediately published this article. Oh, there we go. How the Guardian will stand up to 4 more years of Donald Trump. Within the article is a begging bowl for your money. Please donate to keep the Guardian crying for another 4 years. Let's just check in now with Carol Conspiracy Theory Cadwallader, shall we? Democracy died in darkness, she says. Well, at the time I came on air, about 72 million people voted for President Trump. I think 67 million people voted for Harris. It is quite literally one of the largest expressions of democracy on earth, Carol. Marina Purkis, she thinks it's time to completely F off our special relationship. Oh, yeah, great. Let's economically destroy ourselves. I mean, the Labour Party you helped to elect are doing that already, thank you very much. But spare a thought for the insufferable Marsh family who've been pumping out tripe like this.
Oh, give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala, give me hope, Kamala, for the election. Give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala, hope for beating Donald Trump.
Here's a... What a time to be alive. All right, here we go. Let's get stuck in with my wonderful panel this evening. We've got writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks. And, of course, director at Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. Now, we are awaiting Kamala Harris walking out any minute now, and we'll take it for you live. I don't know if we can see any of that podium shot if it's still there, so we don't miss a second of it. Historic moment, conceding defeat to President Trump. But goodness gracious me, those left-wing tears, Mark.
Yes, well, I mean, obviously, Patrick, our thoughts and prayers are with all Guardian readers at this very difficult time. I find it amazing how thin-skinned a lot of the liberal left journalists are. I mean, I didn't want the Labour Party to win the last general election, but I didn't sort of curl up into some fetal position and scream blue murder when they did. So I find it extraordinary, this outburst. And talk about wishful thinking. I mean, how on earth Rory Stewart ever reached the conclusion that Kamala Harris was going to win in a landslide?
What's wrong with
just pluck that out of thin air. It's just absolutely the wish is the father of the thought in that case. So they seem to be not just of a leftist bent, but detached from reality.
Yeah, well, I would be inclined to agree as well. Like I said, Kamala Harris is supposedly emerging at some point soon for this, you know, concession, as it were. I'm not sure if we've still got the live feed for that. Hopefully we can take that at some point. But, yeah, I mean, Adam, it was an interesting thing to watch, all of these supposedly impartial journalists like Emily Maitlis unable to keep it together.
It was hilarious. I sat on my settee. I did not move for about 8 or 9 hours last night, and I could not believe how childish, petulant and unprofessional people like Emily Maitlis was. We see it during Brexit. These people couldn't take that normal working class people dared to vote a different way to them, and now they cannot get their head around how black men, black women, Hispanic communities can dare vote for someone that they're not meant to vote for. These people, these lefty cabal journalists and media figures have no idea about the real world. They're in their own bubble. They go to their posh coffee shops. Their friends say the same things that they say. Their whole friendship group, you know, agree with each other. And they just cannot deal with real life. And it's great to see. Great.
Yeah, I mean, Rory Stewart's credibility, if he had any, has been completely shot, Nina, hasn't it, really? There, Florence of Belgravia, he's out on his backside soon, presumably.
Well, frankly, I'm surprised at Rory because I sat on this sofa, not on this show, about 10 days ago, and I said that, unfortunately, probably Trump would win. I said that. I think the reaction to Trump's win is not just the Republican Party winning an election. It's not that, because Trump is not a normal politician. Trump is such an extreme person and personality that there are going to be extreme reactions.
Yeah.
And I think because of his narcissism, his unpredictability, his complete inability to think of other people, and indeed the country and the people he's supposed to be president, you know, that everything he does is for himself and for his
But the people voted. The people voted in unbelievably large numbers.
He's very, very clever. He's very, very clever. He really is. That whole populist thing, he has managed to do it. He's utterly brilliant. He's utterly brilliant in terms of how he marketed himself.
I would agree that Trump is the sort of politician who ignites high passions on both sides of the political ledger. And I wouldn't criticise, say, Democratic Party activists, you know, tearing their hair out. What I find extraordinary is on the vast majority of British mainstream television media, it was the anchor man and woman tearing their hair out, not left-wing activists.
Well, the presenters. The Rory Stewart excuse, well, I was wrong because I'm an optimist. It's the same thing when you go to a job interview and they go, what's your biggest flaw? And you go, well, I struggle to sleep at night because I don't switch off from work because I'm such a perfectionist. Oh, jog on, Rory. He never gets out. That guy, all right, and not just him here now, but so many people like him, I am convinced, and he would probably deny this, hate ordinary people. He'd hate to go to a pub. He'd hate to go to a pub in Essex. He'd hate to go to places like Stanley in County Durham, where we went and did a whole show from. He doesn't want to go and meet the great unwashed. He likes sitting there on Alistair Campbell's lap, just peddling out stuff, pontificating about how great James Cleverly would have been.
I've never met Rory Stewart, and I'm no apologist for him, but I think for you to say that, make that sweeping statement that he wouldn't know an ordinary person if he tripped over one and wouldn't want to trip over one is pure speculation.
Well, I'll back it up. I agree with Patrick.
You agree? Have you met Rory Stewart?
No, and I don't want to.
Because he wouldn't come to his public.
I don't want to. I mean, Patrick, these people, as I said earlier,
as soon as you start saying these people, hold on 1 second. You are dehumanising them. You are patronising them, and you are setting.
Nina.
You're setting up divisive.
Nina. 1 second, Nina. 1 second, Nina.
Stop saying that.
No, I won't stop saying this because just a few weeks ago you labelled me and Patrick as lunatics for saying that we supported Trump.
Of course, and I still think you are. Absolutely.
So you've just gone from one thing, how hypocritical.
I was talking about the phrase, the two words, these people. I didn't say these.
Well, these people.
I do know Rory Stewart.
Themselves.
I do know Rory Stewart. I was at university with him. I didn't know him particularly well then, but I did know him, and he's a decent enough bloke. But I think the point you're making, Patrick, is there does seem to be a class of media commentators who are aloof in some fashion. I wouldn't go so far as to say he'll never speak to an ordinary person. I wouldn't say that about Rory Stewart necessarily. But there seems to be a detachment from the pulse and the feeling and the attitudes and the beliefs and the instincts of ordinary Joe. Yeah, I agree.
I think that the job... Sadly, Patrick, you're going to have to be careful of this. Leads you to believe that whatever you say is gold and gospel.
No, he's a very modest man.
And you're fated by your viewers, and you're fated, if you do any good, you're fated by your employers.
I actually have to have two changing rooms, one for me and one for my ego.
Well, exactly. So you're aware of it. But the point being that people like Emily Maitlis, who did a brilliant job on Prince Andrew's interview.
Come on. Right. I mean, the guy, that was sitting there waiting for you, wasn't it? I mean, you know Jeffrey Epstein. Yes.
But she did it brilliantly. I happen to think that she's rather arrogant. I agree with you. I think that she is quite...
Well, she lost it, Nina. She started swearing. She lost like a bulldog licking a proverbial thistle.
I disagree with that. But I also disagree with Boris Johnson going on there and flogging his bloody book.
But Nina, I'd say this, right? I agree with you. Emily Maitlis can be a good kind of attack dog, actually, in interviews. She's got a real skill for that, and that's fine. What I was so disappointed about last night, flicking through all of the various British channels, was the only TV channel that played it completely straight was GBNews. Everybody else, the people anchoring it, appeared to have an opinion on what they wanted the outcome to be.
I
and that's a shocker.
The BBC did not have an opinion. They did not have an opinion on it.
OK.
Well, maybe
you've got the likes of Dom Jolly, right? Dom Jolly. I just can't understand it. I just can't understand it.
Look,
these people, maybe I had higher standards. Maybe I had higher standards. I didn't want a misogynist to win. You see it time and time again. When they get a vote that they don't like, the people who vote for that person are thick.
Let
him answer enough.
Look, this is what I was saying before. These celebrities and these left-wing activists or journalists, whatever you want to call them, they cannot understand.
You're an activist. You call yourself an activist, don't
they
you?
cannot understand why these people have voted for Trump. They do not have anything in common with the common man or the lower classes. It's pure snobbery. And it's there for everyone to see.
Actually, in fairness to John...
classes, actually. I think that's
in fairness to Dom Jolly, he actually says that. He's the one who puts his hands in the air and says, I have no explanation for what on earth happened.
If he got out more, he might.
Yeah, he might. But at least he had the decency to admit that he had no explanation whatsoever.
That people like the news agents, all right, Lewis Goodall's of this world, the only way they would have ever turned up to somewhere in the northeast, like we were at the other week or whatever, would have been to go and do a vox pop, and they clip up the most stupid things that those people say, they make them all look like idiots, and they put it out there. That's the only way they would ever go to any of those places. They do not care about ordinary people, and they've called it wrong. That's why they keep calling it wrong. They cannot fathom the idea that people would vote for Trump.
It's pure Trump derangement syndrome. These people cannot get over it and will never get over it.
May I just point out to you, when Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States, he put his hand on a Bible and he swore that he would protect and preserve the American Constitution. Now, on January the 6th, that is exactly what he did not do.
Utter nonsense.
Don't you say it's utter nonsense?
I'd say what I'd like, Nina.
Well,
it's utter
then
nonsense.
You're deluded in that case, and politically naive. He sat there for 4 hours. He encouraged them to march to the Capitol building.
And he called for no violence.
He didn't. Well, he sat there with his arms folded for 4 hours and didn't bring in
But
the
Nina,
state
this case has been prosecuted now, if you like, in the public arena, I don't mean legally, for months in front of the American electorate. The Democrats have been pointing this all the time, and the people have now decided, and the electorate is never wrong.
Depressed about the American population.
Can I just remind everyone, if you are watching us on television, what it is that you're looking at, apart from our beautiful faces occasionally here. That big screen there that you're seeing is the podium where any moment now Kamala Harris is due to walk out, and it is a historic moment. It's a moment that many people thought would never come. She is going to, as we understand it anyway, concede defeat officially to President Trump. That's going to smart a bit,
Which
Mark,
he didn't actually do himself 4 years ago.
Right, that's true. Well, I was a bit surprised, actually, last night that she didn't do this last night. She was there last night. It was evident that she had lost. I understand she's made the telephone call directly to Trump, which is how the protocol goes. You actually directly phone the opponent who has vanquished you or defeated you. And now she's obviously going to speak to, her adoring fans. It was a big surprise to me that she packed up and went home last night. I thought that was slightly graceless. It was pretty obvious that the election was over. If she genuinely thought it was in the balance, I think she should have taken the stage and said that to her, to the hundreds and hundreds of Harris supporters who had worked so hard for her. She didn't bother. She's been completely off radar and missing in action for 12, 15 hours now.
Yeah, can I just say, thank you, by the way, guys. It's a lovely start, and, depending on how late Kamala Harris is, we might need a bit more of you shortly. But let's just take this full now, because we don't want to miss, I think there's some funky music going on there. Like I said, Kamala Harris is due to come out of there any moment. Now, we're not entirely sure what kind of Kamala Harris we're going to get here, so let me tell you this, all right? We were initially told that Kamala Harris is going to be coming out and doing a big speech, and that was going to be a couple of hours ago. And then they moved it to what was then going to be 11 p.m. UK time, and then they moved it to 9 p.m. UK time. As you can tell, it's now 17, nearly 18 minutes past 9. Still no sign of Kamala. Big question marks over what kind of person we're actually going to get here and how we're going to end up seeing her as she potentially comes out and says, concedes to Trump. A day that no doubt she hoped would never come, a day she probably thought would never come. And we are just going to wait with bated breath. There's some people peeking out from behind the panel there, exactly. Just in the meantime, tonight's big debate that we're going to ask is, after Donald Trump's historic election victory, does the Foreign Secretary and long-term Trump critic David Lammy now have to go? And we're going to put that to a head-to-head. Yeah, so just while we wait for Kamala there, and just keep that picture up, I think, if we can. David Lammy is no stranger to controversy, and could he be regretting his social media posts from a few short years ago? So this tweet from 2017 saw Lammy brand Trump beneath contempt and a troll. It was a series of offensive comments being posted by the Foreign Secretary over the years. Bearing in mind his new role on Labour's front benches, this is a man who we will rely on to foster warm relations with our stateside neighbours. Diplomacy Dave, they call him. Diplomacy Dave. And at Prime Minister's questions earlier today, the new leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, did not hold back.
And so I would like to start by congratulating President-elect Trump on his impressive victory this morning. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order. And if he did not apologise, will the Prime Minister do so now on his behalf?
The Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise.
All right, so tonight I am asking, after Trump's historic election victory, does the Foreign Secretary, long-term Trump critic David Lammy, realistically have to go? Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. Tweet me at GBNews. I now welcome former Labour Minister Dennis McShane and entrepreneur extraordinaire Charlie Mullins. Charlie, he's called him a woman-hating, Nazi-sympathising sociopath. right? I mean, the guy cannot continue in office, surely, now Trump's there.
Of course not. I mean, he's a loose cannon, and I think Starmer needs to show some leadership and get rid of him, or he needs to resign. I mean, he's an embarrassment, and he's done it before. And, you know, why would you pick a fight with the most powerfulest man in the world?
I mean, this is symptomatic, really, of the short-sighted student politics that the Labour Party has been known for decades, isn't it?
Oh, forever, for 100, 200 years, 300 years, nothing but student politics. Yes, Patrick. Now, I was a Foreign Office Minister at the Foreign Office for 8 years and ended up as number 2. Trust me, I had very strong views on lots of the people I met. And then when I became the Foreign Office Minister, I represented our country and the end of. Here's Boris Johnson in 2015. Donald Trump is quite a stupefyingly ignoramus, which makes him utterly unfit to hold the office of President of the United States. And then a couple of years later, there was Boris chumming it up with Donald Trump. Do you know something? I doubt if you could phone Donald Trump now, he'd the faintest idea who David Lammy is.
No, he does know who he is. He does know who he is. No.
Just with respect, mate,
James.
not all that's the best argument, but also he had dinner with him a few weeks ago.
James, of course he knows who he is. I mean, it's all over the world news.
James.
What's
your name?
It's all right.
It's Fred, whatever.
All right, Eric or whatever it is. But anyhow, of course, everybody knows about it. I mean, well, why are we here?
Well, I mean, I've got the phone numbers of an awful lot of foreign ministers.
No, but that's not the point. You know that Lammy. You know that Lammy's a pest. He's a nuisance. He needs to go.
Do
you not think it's bad? Look, business-wise, with your business hat on, right? You know, you've made a huge amount of money in business. Realistically, all right. America is our best, should be, best business partner. You know, what's Trump going to do? Trump has been saying, reportedly, behind the scenes today, Trump was saying that, you know, he can't get on with Starmer because he's too left-wing. They threatened to take legal action against the Labour government that sent people out there to vote for Harris. You know, if David Lammy remains in post, we are knackered, aren't we?
Oh, of course you are. He's going to destroy everything. He's already a loose cannon. Of course he needs to go. If he worked for me on a company and from a business point of view, as soon as he opened his mouth, he would have been gone. You need to get rid of him. He's a troublemaker. And, you know, you've got to look at it long term. As you say, they're the people we need to be friends with. We've come out of the EU, which, you know, we've already lost a lot of customers. Now we're talking about, like...
Don't say that on this station.
I'll say what...
campaign to Romania. He was a big Remainer.
Anyhow, I'm sure you'll agree with me that if Lammy worked for you, would you get rid of him?
Well, I've always loved people with strong opinions. So
it's normally a yes or no answer.
All right. You've got very strong opinions, Charlie. And do you know something? I admire you for that. You want Lammy to be a little... We've got little diplomats who say nothing. We've got tons of them.
Yeah, we've got loads of them.
And Lammy's...
Can I just interrupt? Just keep pinning it. Stay where you are, then. What we're looking at on the screens now is Tim Walz, the man who was plucked from relative obscurity to nearly become the Vice President of America. He would have done, wouldn't he, if Kamala Harris would. So he's arriving now at this... well, what would you call it? It's the opposite of a victory rally, isn't it? So is it a loser spectacle? I don't know.
She'd stayed in relative obscurity.
Well, yeah, possibly not the best.
Yeah, well, what are they celebrating? They've lost.
Well, they've got to come out and put a brave face on, haven't they?
Yeah, well, she's been doing that all the time.
I mean, this is going to be absolutely iconic, what we're going to witness here, really, because she is going to have to come out now. And be interesting to gauge what tone she goes for, right? Because all of the rhetoric during this campaign has been, by the way, really similar to the likes of David Lammy. You know, this guy's a Nazi, he's a problem, he's a massive issue, he's dangerous, he's a fascist, all of that. So now, does she come out realistically and say, oh, look, hey, you know,
Donald Trump
we
has
wish him
treated
well?
Kamala Harris with respect, not made any reference to her race in a very unpleasant way.
Did he?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
What did he say?
She was Indian a few months ago, and now she's changed to
here she comes. There we go. Kamala Harris, the forever former Vice President of the United States of America, taking to that podium in Washington, D.C. She's smiling at the moment. Let's see how she plays it. So there we go. Kamala Harris now will give her address to the nation, to the world, really, and she's going to be saying how she finally acknowledges defeat to President Trump. She's taking rapturous applause from the audience there as she waves and smiles away. Let's hear from her.
Good afternoon. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, Over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, but like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching, it is, I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. HU. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
All right, there we go. Well, there was some talk as to whether or not Beyoncé would be playing at her rallies. I thought they meant live, not actually they'd just be playing it at that loser speech there. But there we go. Kamala Harris somehow managing to make it through that particular speech. Mark, what's your main takeaway, apart from obvious?
I mean, perfectly dignified, but I mean, it is a bit, do you want any mayonnaise or ketchup with your word salad, isn't it? I mean, if you want to understand why she died so terribly in this election, pretty much the nebulous nature of what she said there, nothing offensive about it, but all incredibly vague. I'm actually trying to think now if I can discern any policy pledge that she made.
Did you not look at the stars?
A billion stars must enter the sky to light up the sky with optimism.
I looked at the stars.
It's completely vague. Look, the Democrats really only had themselves to blame here. They took too long to get rid of Joe Biden. They should have got him to stand down and had an open primary process, in which I'm quite certain that Harris would not have prevailed, and they could have had a real talent fight between a good number of Democrats. But I'm afraid, you know, it's very difficult to... I mean, dignified, as I say. Yeah. She didn't say anything offensive, but the problem is she didn't really say anything at all.
If Jon Snow was looking at those images now, he'd say that's the whitest crowd he's ever seen, pretty much.
That time when Jon Snow was the whitest crowd was a pure statement of fact.
A ridiculous one.
OK.
But it was a statement of fact.
It's irrelevant, though, wasn't it? But
yeah, completely.
All right, and so look, what do you make of that, Adam? I mean, was in Kamala Harris's defence there, you know, she's obviously... It must be a brutally savage thing here, a brutally savage thing to get a kicking from a man you clearly hate.
So, shall I be honest? I was laughing my head off throughout that. I couldn't...
Sniggering like a schoolboy.
Yeah. Exactly, because...
Like a schoolboy, if you're really immature.
OK, Nina. So, basically, a lot of what she said there made no sense. To the average American, they would have been watching that thinking, what is she going on about? At the end of the day...
She talked about kindness,
if you'll let me speak,
respect.
Nina. And she went on about this fight for freedom. Now, they've just had a democratic election with hundreds of millions of people voting. The man that won fights for free speech. The man that won fights for equality for all and wants everyone to be prosperous. Yep. The man that won fights for world peace. What is this fight for freedom that she's talking about?
Well,
utter nonsense.
Look, let's be honest, you were saying, as she was talking there, that this is a very dignified, coherent speech.
Yes.
And you enjoyed it.
Yes. Well, you know, as you say, it's a terrible thing to have to do, to stand up in front of the planet and concede that you failed and you were wrong. And I agree with you. It's not just the Democratic Party's fault. It is Biden himself. I would take it as far back as Obama, because Obama promoted Hillary Clinton as opposed to Biden. Biden waited so long to be president that when he finally got in, he wouldn't get out. And it should have been... So I take it back as far as that. You know, this woman had 100 days to do an impossible task. an almost impossible task because she had to, and she made mistakes. She didn't distance herself enough from Biden.
She didn't really have any policies, Neil.
Yeah, she had no policies. That was the real problem.
I mean, she just didn't really have any
She
policies.
backed everything that he did over the last 4 years, and that is why America is in the problem.
That was her job.
Something that seems to have gone under the radar here is, you will no doubt correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my understanding is that at the last election, something like 20 million more people voted for Biden
than have just voted for Harris. It's about that.
Where have those Democrats gone?
Nearer 15 million, I think it is. But
still
nevertheless,
I read that earlier.
Sorry, but hang on a minute. Where have all those people gone? Because in the meantime, they've flooded the country with illegal migrants, given a load of them the chance to vote, put a load of them in swing states, given them the chance to have free housing and all of this stuff. But some would say that's loading the dice a bit. And what? Now we're led to believe that 15 million people...
The other amazing thing is...
stopped existing?
If you looked, at least it was true a few hours ago, that if you looked through 8,000 different districts that had voted, in not one of them did Harris improve on Biden's vote. In not one of the 8,000 counties, according to CNN. So it does raise an eyebrow. It is true to say that there have been some stronger regulations about the ease of mail-in ballots and the rest of it. So there has been some tightening of the regulations, but it is a dramatic drop-off in the Democratic Party.
It doesn't make sense. So it makes me question the validity of the 2020 election. And I read a stat earlier, not 100% that it's true, that Kamala Harris won every district or state where there wasn't voter ID. Funny that.
Interesting. If that's true, I don't know. I haven't had time to do every single little bit of this particular election. But, Nina, just to kind of recap on what we saw there, right? So we saw Kamala Harris come out. The general perception, I think, admittedly not yours, is that she spoke in a lot of word salad. She spoke about looking at the stars for a bit of it and fighting for hope and all of this, kind of random stuff, really. And to bring us back full circle to where we started with this, presumably people like Rory Stewart and Emily Maitlis and Alistair Campbell and James O'Brien are looking at her as she turns to walk away, to walk back down that aisle there as a loser, and they're going, there goes America. There goes the death of the American dream. Why? What planet are they on? What was that?
Because Trump is such an unpredictable, unknown factor, or known in some cases. But I just wanted to add one factor that hasn't actually been discussed this evening, and as to why she wasn't voted in, and why people, Biden got more votes. There's the whole sexist thing. There are men who will not vote for a woman, and I don't think...
amongst Democrats?
Democrats, whoever. Latino, Hispanic, black, whatever. There are men who will not vote for a woman. And there are also, because she's a black woman, there is also racism.
But this is amongst the Democrats, you're assuming? And the same people who elected Obama?
Absolutely. So I'm saying that this is a factor that we haven't discussed.
That didn't cost her the election.
But it's definitely a factor.
The biggest factor, I would say, and, I'm approaching this from a sympathetic to Trump perspective, but I found a good number of her interviews in what you rightly say, Nina, was a short election campaign, toe-curling. She was asked very simple questions about what she might have done differently to Joe Biden that she'd clearly not prepared any sort of thoughtful answer to at all. That's why she came unstuck.
Well, look, thank you very much for a rip-roaring first 45 minutes of this show. Lovely stuff. I'm going to deviate now from the old Kamala Harris election stuff, because actually much closer to home is something I find really important. It's Remembrance Sunday. I mean, is it really an appropriate time to run yet another pro-Palestine rally in our second city in Birmingham? The group organising that have doubled down today. Well, I've got former senior military intelligence officer and veteran, Philip Ingram. He says it's absolutely not appropriate. He's going to stand up for the veterans, and he's on in a second, so stay tuned.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GBNews Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
This is reported in the Telegraph today, and
it's about being white or being coloured or being anti-racist. Is Monopoly a racist game?
This is an incredible story, actually, I have to say. I'm reading this from the Mail. It's in Telegraph as well, but from the Mail. Children should be playing Monopoly to learn about racial privilege, councils claim. While white players should be given more money, spend less time in jail, and also be given a head start on buying property to convey inequality and white supremacy. And this all, I'm not making this up, and this all comes from a document called How to Raise Anti-Racist Children, which was drawn up for the Barbie manufacturer Mattel in 2020, and it's been endorsed, or at least circulated, by Leicestershire County Council, Southampton City Council, Lambeth London Borough and the City of London Corporation, who apparently think this is a sensible way to go forward. I mean, for goodness sake, Monopoly is just a bit of fun, isn't it? Let's just enjoy it.
It's a wonderful example of how anti-racist thinking becomes racist. What they're saying is that white children should be given privileges on the Monopoly board.
Because they've got it in real life.
So that they learn that they already have privilege. Do we really think children are going to think that? Or do we really think children are going to think, oh, great, I have an white children are going to think, great, I have an advantage?
They're going to think, oh, no, I've landed on Mayfair and there's 4 houses there.
It's wonderfully stupid.
We've also heard it with nursery rhymes as well, though, haven't we? And mums and dads being told not to sing Bar Bar Black Sheep.
That's in the story as well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's steeped in white culture. And what a lot of nonsense that is as well.
What are you meant to sing instead?
Well, Bar Bar, I don't know, White Sheep, perhaps, I don't know.
Or Rainbow Sheep or something.
Wah Wah White Sheep. You can say Wah Wah White Sheep as they play Monopoly with their privileges.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. Now, massive story this. Last night on my show, I shared this poster put online by Birmingham for Palestine. So they say that on Sunday, the 10th of November, they are going to gather in Birmingham to, quote, honour their martyrs, right, mourn the murder of innocent Palestinians. Sunday is, of course, Remembrance Sunday, the one day of the year, really, where the nation comes together to pay our respects to veterans, the war dead, people who gave their lives in conflict all over the world. There are calls on social media to send letters to the authorities, including the Mayor of Birmingham, the Police and Crime Commissioner, local MPs, asking them to cancel this ridiculous and offensive demonstration. Yesterday, we contacted the local council and the police, actually. They basically just palmed us off completely and just said that, well, really, you know, there's no point. Anyway, what happened after I raised it last night was that the group then released another statement saying, get this, you ready? We will not be bowing down to, you know, Islamophobia. We're going to be going ahead with this anyway. That's what they're saying. So, OK. Or apparently it's Islamophobic, maybe, if you decide that it might not be the best thing in the world for a group of people to come and honour their martyrs right next to a group of people who are mourning our war dead. But anyway, joining me now from Birmingham is a former senior military intelligence officer and veteran, Philip Ingram. Philip, is this bang out of order? You're a veteran, you're in the area. What are your thoughts?
It's completely out of order. They're trying to hijack what is a national memorial event that is commemorating Muslim soldiers, Hindu soldiers, Christian soldiers, soldiers of no faith whatsoever who have laid their lives down so that people can protest. So, you know, in a way, I'm caught in a dilemma because I have fought for the right for people to peacefully protest, and I hope this is a peaceful protest. But actually, when people protest on the day that you're remembering those who've given the ultimate sacrifice for it, it's a little bit over the top. It's taking the pee slightly.
I wonder whether or not it's a bit of a deliberate provocation, to be honest with you, Philip, because the pro-Palestine protests that take place, you know, let's exclude the ones that, of course, have happened outside primary schools, MPs' offices, or on random days of the week when things are being discussed in Parliament, have mostly taken place on a Saturday. Now, to do it on Remembrance Sunday, I think is it's a deliberate move, right?
Oh, of course it's a deliberate move. And this is where, you know, the local council are failing by, they could have easily banned it. And the police could have turned around and said that they're concerned about the safety of the veterans. And there are many elderly veterans. I'm not quite in that bracket yet. I'm not far off it. But many elderly veterans who'll be there just trying to commemorate peacefully. And I've been to the Remembrance service in Birmingham, every year for many, many years. And it's in a tight, compact area, and if you get protests going around the outside, and I know there are people, and there's veterans, there's cadets, there's civilians all through the area. People will feel intimidated as to what's happening, and that's just not on at all.
Well, they say that they're honouring the memory of the martyrs, which, according to them, in this context, happens to be people who've been killed in Palestine or Gaza. Over the last 74 years. They say that they are simply raising awareness for that. What do you make of that?
Well, whenever they start talking of martyrs and using language like that, they're talking about those that are fighting, in inverted commas, for what they call the Palestinian cause. And therefore, they're referencing directly Hamas, Hezbollah, and others who are not fighting for the Palestinian cause. There is a Palestinian state at the moment. It's called Jordan. The Palestinians that are in Gaza, in the West Bank and elsewhere, the West Bank, they're represented by ambassadors, Palestine, across the world in different countries. But they had a civil war with Hamas, who are supposed to be representing the Palestinians. Most of these people don't understand what they're talking about. They don't understand the history, and they're protesting just because
Philip, as well,
it's something else to put on.
So, I've said this. We let them do it all the time. They have these protests all the time. Every single... This is our day, right? This is a very special day. Anyone who had a deep-seated sense of cultural attachment to this country would never think of doing something like this on this day. And the police could stop it. The local... hang on a second. It wasn't that long ago, was it, where we had politicians and police officers going and talking to the community elders? Wasn't it? In fact, I think that was in the West Midlands. They went and spoke to... Thank you very much, community elders, for letting me come and have this conversation with you. Couldn't they go to those elders and say, look, it's a bit rum, this?
They could do and they should do. The West Midlands is a very multicultural area, and multiculturalism is part of British society. It's what we are, and we fought the First World War, the Second World War. In fact, I'll be wearing my great-grandfather's medals as well as my medals on Sunday. Because I can wear both, but that goes back right to the operations in South Africa in Queen Victoria's time, right through to multiple operations the whole way through. That wasn't about any one religion. It was about giving freedom for anyone from any background to be able to do things peacefully. So respect the sacrifices that people have made in these different operations over generations. And if you want to protest, have it on a different day, have it something else, but don't disrespect what veterans are trying to commemorate, because it's a very solemn day, and I've lost very, very good friends, and it's a painful, painful day for me.
OK, Philip. Well, thank you very much for coming on and talking about it and expressing yourself so well, actually, there, and with such dignity, which I suspect, by the way, is a sharp contrast to some of the things that we may well, unfortunately, see on Sunday. We certainly saw it last year, didn't we, Philip? All the very best to you, my good man, and thank you for everything that you've done for this country as well. Philip Ingram there, who is the former senior military intelligence officer and a veteran, who clearly comes from a long line of people who've done their service for this country. So there we go. Earlier today, West Midlands Police told our team, we are aware of a post on X advertising a protest allegedly taking place on Sunday the 10th of November. We can confirm that at this stage we've not received any notice from a group or person claiming to be the organiser of this event. We're investigating whether this is a source of misinformation, and inquiries are ongoing to confirm the accuracy of this post. Well, fine, all right, there is a group called Birmingham for Palestine, and they have organised other protests, and they say they're organising this one, so, Anyway, right, loads more coming your way. After US actor Rob Schneider lost his rag with ITV's Good Morning Britain over their Donald Trump bashing, he joined me earlier for an explosive interview. You're not going to want to miss it. He teed off big time on Ed Balls earlier, so we thought we'd get him on. He delayed his flight to LA for us. He's come on and he's got stuck in again. So, yeah, I'll play you that shortly. But next, as David Lammy's criticisms of Donald Trump resurface, I actually look at some of the other members of this Labour cabinet who will be hoping desperately that no one in the British media brings up the previous things that they happen to have said years ago about Donald Trump, because it would be a real shame if I did that.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather forecast, coming to you from the Met Office. It's going to stay pretty cloudy, but generally dry as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. We still have high pressure dominating our weather. It is to the east of us, but nonetheless keeping things pretty settled, and any weather systems to the west of us are staying at bay. But with that high pressure, we have a lot of cloud. That cloud is going to be quite thick, could be quite low in some places, some hill fog through tonight in a few places, and also some outbreaks of drizzly rain. The greatest chance of any clear skies will be across northern parts of Scotland and the far north of England. The cloud will keep things pretty mild, temperatures for many staying in double figures, so a mild grey and for some damp start to the day for many tomorrow. Some places will have some sunshine through the morning, particularly northern Scotland. Some breaks in the cloud quite likely here. Across more central western parts, thicker cloud and a bit of drizzly rain quite likely, especially over any higher ground. Further south across Northern Ireland and the bulk of England and Wales, it is looking like it will be another grey, gloomy start to the day. There could be some hill fog around, perhaps not as much as we saw through today. Nonetheless, there will also be a few outbreaks of drizzly rain. Nothing heavy, and any drizzly rain shouldn't last particularly long. Most of us will actually avoid it, but yes, there could be some damp weather around. Staying cloudy, still just the best chance of any sunshine will be across the far north of Scotland, perhaps North Wales and eastern England. In the sunshine, not feeling too bad, and generally temperatures on the mild side, highs in the mid-teens for many of us. Spot the difference when it comes to looking at Friday. Again, lots of grey, cloudy skies across the UK. Still some sunshine breaking through again towards the north of Scotland, northern England, North Wales, the best chance of catching any sunshine. Staying pretty similar as we go into the weekend. Another grey, mostly dry day on Saturday, and staying that way on Sunday in the south, but further north we may see some wet and windy weather for it.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you the chance to win everything you need to celebrate the festivities. There's £20,000 and £25 in tax-free cash. There's £5,000 to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £500 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. We'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
I will. I mean, I'll tell Emily off later, but because I know she started the swearing. But
it doesn't matter enough. The fact that he tried to steal the last election, the fact that he was prepared to subvert the entire democratic process.
That left-wing media meltdown keeps on coming.
Got it totally wrong. I thought Kamala Harris would win, and I believe she would win comfortably. I thought it would be over quite quickly. Despite the polls showing 50-50. Why?
And it keeps going.
Good morning, everybody. Slightly blown away by the news from America. I just don't get it.
No, you don't. But the political meltdown will now follow.
Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath.
David Lammy surely has to go now, and also Keir Starmer is compromised, as well as several other Labour cabinet ministers. And get this.
You were also saying that he was a misogynist and racist. I also heard that. I heard you say that. I did hear you say that.
He went viral earlier today. Hollywood superstar Rob Schneider teed off on Ed Balls this morning.
Warn your viewers that that free speech is under attack in the UK, and it is under assault.
So we went and got him on. He's going to get stuck in again shortly. Also... There might be an update for you on that disgusting pro-Palestine Remembrance Sunday protest we were talking about. They have doubled down, by the way. Plus, this is huge, our very own national reporter, Charlie Peters, exposes the 20 men behind the biggest ever single grooming gang sentencing announcement. They got a combined total of 219 years, so we'll be bringing that to you shortly. I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages tonight with the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, landlord and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster extraordinaire, Nina Mishkov. Oh, and go on, let's just check in on that left-wing meltdown again, shall we?
We have to make sure that he doesn't get in, because he is... he's a monster.
Yeah. Get ready, Britain, here we go. Oh, that one was a pint of James O'Brien's tears. See you in a minute.
Good evening. The main headlines from the GB News Centre. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris has formally conceded defeat tonight. Vice President Harris spoke to hundreds of supporters in Washington. She told them she would do everything possible to help President-elect Trump with a peaceful transition to the new administration.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer has telephoned Donald Trump to offer what Downing Street described tonight as hearty congratulations for his win. Sir Keir said he looked forward to working closely with the President-elect across all areas of this special relationship. The Prime Minister also reflected on the crisis in the Middle East and underscored the need for regional stability. Earlier, Sir Keir and Kemi Badenoch faced each other at Prime Minister's questions for the first time. On the issue of farmers' inheritance tax, Sir Keir said his government was listening to the concerns of those in the agriculture sector. But the new Tory leader accused the Prime Minister of giving the people nothing more than stock answers.
His scripted lines are showing that he has not even listened to the budget himself. But what does he say to farmers who are facing uncertainty about their futures as a result of the increased taxes announced by the Chancellor?
I'm glad she's raised farmers because the budget last week put £5 billion over the next 2 years into farming. That's the single biggest increase, unlike the £300 million, which was an underspend under the last government.
4 more migrants have died in the English Channel in less than 24 hours as hundreds of others crossed to the UK today. GB News filmed as some of the more than 300 migrants who made the illegal voyage arrived at Dover Harbour. They've taken the total number making it to the UK so far this year to almost 32,000. Well, there you are. You're right up to date with all the latest headlines. Now time for more tears and a bit of laughter, I'm sure, from Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Some people think this Labour government is full of short-sighted student politics, virtue signalling idiots. Not me, of course. Anyway, this happened last night.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
And this puts Labour in a very tricky position. Now, in 2017, our now Foreign Secretary David Lammy called President Trump a racist and KKK neo-Nazi sympathiser. A year later, he wrote in Time magazine that he would be protesting against the tyrant in a toupee. He added, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, he's also a profound threat to the international order that has been the foundation of Western progress for so long. Here he is on video.
This presidency is worse than any of us could ever have imagined. It's obviously a disaster for the United States, but it's a huge disaster for the international community.
Good stuff. So today, David Lammy tweets this. There we are. Yeah. Congratulations, the Don, the big guy, on your victory. The UK has no greater friend than the US. Oh, good. Diplomacy Dave, as they call him, he's looking forward to working with Trump. Well, I mean, look, his position is obviously untenable now, isn't it? And many think that Keir Starmer should sack him. But he won't yet, though.
And so I would like to start by congratulating President-elect Trump on his impressive victory this morning. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order. And if he did not apologise, will the Prime Minister do so now on his behalf?
Well, the Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance. It was a very constructive exercise.
But Starmer's no better himself, really. In 2021, he reportedly declared himself to be anti-Trump but pro-American. Starmer's own wife, according to Guido Fawkes, was pictured at the anti-Trump march in London, supposedly with at least one of their children. And Keir Starmer let a load of Labour staffers go and campaign directly for Kamala Harris. He even slammed Boris Johnson for being endorsed by Trump. In fact, he said that made Boris unfit to be Prime Minister. But now, he's all smiles.
As the closest of allies, the UK and US will continue to work together to protect our shared values of freedom and democracy. And having had dinner with President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago, I look forward to working with him in the years to come.
That dinner with Trump's going to become the new my dad was a toolmaker, isn't it? You can see that coming a mile off. But our Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said of some Trump remarks, these aren't just harmless rants from a sad man in his bedroom. This is the bully pulpit of the most powerful man on the planet, broadcast direct to millions of people. Here she is also on camera, conveniently, saying that the UK shouldn't welcome Trump.
I think the problem for us is that to roll out a red carpet at the moment could well become to provide a platform for further tweets or further divisive statements that cause a problem for our communities here in the United Kingdom. And I don't think it would be right for us to let that happen. Now,
Actually, we know how the Labour Party feel about tweets they don't approve of, don't we? In 2017, our Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, called Trump an odious, sad little man in a post on X. He added, "Imagine being proud to have that as your president." Ed Miliband's next. In 2016, he said this about the Tories welcoming Trump to office: "The idea that we have shared values with a racist, misogynistic, self-confessed groper beggars belief." We've got London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who allowed a Trump blimp to fly over London and has essentially accused him of being an Islamophobe. Today released this really salty statement. In it, he says, "We will always be pro-woman, pro-diversity, pro-climate change and pro-human rights." Oh, hi there, Sadiq. Are you in charge of this city, by any chance? Oh, gosh, one rape reported every hour in London, Mayor Khan. Not very pro-woman, that, is it? And on that diversity point, look, a lot of people around London don't want to take lectures from you on the so-called benefits of diversity. Thank you very much. The Lib Dems are just as bad. I've received an email that was sent out to people by the Liberal Democrats saying, "This is a very dark day. The Lib Dems will stand up to Trump's nasty, divisive politics." Ed Davey, their leader, tweeted saying that Trump is a dangerous, destructive demagogue. I'm not too bothered about the Lib Dems because they're just a bunch of socks and sandal-wearing substitute geography teachers. But I am more bothered about the government. The Labour Party's top brass have rendered themselves incompatible with this country's greatest ally. Let's get our thoughts on my panel this evening. We, of course, have writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. We've got the landlord and activist Adam Brooks. And we've got the director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. Mark, so there's quite a few of that Labour top team who, well, frankly, are they incompatible with Trump now, do you think?
This is deeply problematic, Patrick. Look, there's no problem, and everybody knows that the Labour Party and the Democrat Party are sister parties, the Conservative Party and the Republican Party are sister parties. You generally expect Labour-leaning politicians to favour the Democrats and Conservatives generally to favour the Republicans. And I'm not worried about, say, Keir Starmer saying, well, I'm against Trump, but I'm pro-American from some tweet back in the day. However, when you're getting into this abusive language, not merely saying, you know, Donald Trump isn't my favourite candidate, but this litany of horrific abuse, you are putting the special relationship in danger. And I would hazard to guess that amongst Donald J. Trump's many, many talents, a propensity to forgive and forget is not amongst them. And bear in mind, his closest political ally in Britain is Nigel Farage. This will not have gone unnoticed by Trump and his team. This might not matter today or tomorrow, but imagine a situation arising in the next year or two where we and the Americans need to be like that. Well, it's going to be very problematic to put these people around the table.
Adam, so we've got there the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, the Mayor of London and the Minister for Net Zero and wasting people's money, Ed Miliband, all of whom have previously teed off and said some unbelievable things about Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, what has to happen now, do you think?
Look, you don't expect these sort of tweets from representatives in our parliament. Really childish, really sort of aggressive, and there's no coming back from it. I mean, David Lammy said that he was a KKK sympathiser. Now, it was the Democrats back in the day, you know, that had the links to the KKK. It was the Republicans that were freeing slaves and stopping segregation. I mean, this man's an idiot. Nothing that Trump does is anything like what the KKK stand for. I've never seen him say anything racist. Now, how awkward are these meetings going to be? If I'm Trump, I know they've said it. You know, Nigel's going to be reminding him all the time.
Morning, night.
How can I sit across the room with a group of people that take to social media and basically defame you and put childish tweets out?
Well, I don't know. Look, Nina, do you think that everything's going to be fine, actually, because diplomacy will win in the end?
Well, there's a hope that it is. I mean, it's a very unedifying sight to see leaders around the world and politicians scrambling to brown-nose the bully who's back in the playground, because that's exactly what it is. And while you don't necessarily have to support what David Lammy said, or you think it's extreme, many of the things that Donald Trump has said are extreme, and you absolutely cannot defend them, and particularly the things he said about women. And you can't talk on that score because you are not a woman.
And can I ask you, has he ever said anything racist?
Yes, he has actually.
What has he said that's racist?
Well, when there were riots, when there were riots, and there were one side against the other, and he actually condemned both sides when only one side was at fault.
Well, so that's racist. So what has he said that is
black-white thing?
What has he specifically said that's racist?
Well, because he did not condemn both sides.
Well, yeah, still, I mean, the problem is still going to be... Look, Nina, it's reasonable for people to criticise Donald Trump, of course. The problem is, imagine we're in a situation, I don't know, negotiating future funding for Ukraine, for example, and Starmer and, I don't know, Sadiq Khan and David Lammy are around the table trying to persuade the Trump administration of this. Your ability to actually get a deal over the line is severely hampered by this legacy of highly abusive and toxic language. This is not a mild criticism of Donald Trump and one particular policy area.
I think you're very
It is throwing the whole enchilada
in
at him.
thinking that Starmer or anybody could have any influence on Donald Trump and what he decides.
Well, this is administration and team as well.
The other thing I'd like to say is that this, as you say, the fabled dinner, that was fixed up. Trump didn't need to take it. He took it. And he likes a winner, and he knew that Keir had won, whether you say it's a shallow majority, but he won a big majority, so he likes a winner. I heard from somebody, on the radio today who was at that dinner, and David Lammy was not fated by Trump.
Yeah, supposedly.
Gave him second helpings, put more potatoes on his plate, joked, blah blah blah. And he's made a big contact with JD Vance.
All right. Can I just go to press time? And I want to ask you this because there's another aspect to this. It's not just about all of these different things that those Labour frontbenchers and big hitters have said over the years, which are pretty stark. There's the time lapse here. So Keir Starmer now has an entire term as Prime Minister with Trump. OK, so there's that overlap that is not going away. So that's going to be a permanent problem for Keir Starmer. Now, the other aspect of this is that Elon Musk is very close to Trump, and Elon Musk has gone to war with Keir Starmer. So it's not really as if Trump's kind of on his own criticising. Elon Musk is there as well. This is a problem for Starmer.
This is a massive problem because a lot of people listen to Elon Musk. A lot of people listen to people like Joe Rogan. He's assembled a team, Trump, that people around the world listen to. And that is bad news for Keir Starmer because at the moment, let's have it right, this country does not like Keir Starmer. His ratings are, I think, the worst of any sitting Prime Minister at this stage. He's not liked, and this isn't going to help him at all.
Look, the thing that they will say, and they do say, and they legitimately can say, the Labour Party, is that regardless of anything that we've said here before, so far, since they've been in power, they've been very polite to Trump, and they're very polite today. It is, of course, the fact that you can't unsay
it's the hypocrisy, right? That if it was the Tories, they would be attacking the Tories for being nice to him.
Everybody knows it's political
It's just stupidity.
diplomacy.
It's stupidity.
Everybody knows.
All right, lovely stuff. Good start again. I've got a lot more coming your way. Just before... I've got, in fact, a Hollywood megastar, Rob Schneider's on the show in a minute, but before all of that, how would you like to win your entire Christmas this year? Well, we're giving you the chance to do just that with the very latest Great British giveaway. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. First, we'll give you £20,025 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you £5,000 to spend on all of your Christmas presents. Christmas lunch, that's on us too. With a further £500 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GBNews Christmas goodie bag. And the best news, you'll get it all in time for the big day. For your chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, I will have the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, plus news of a record-breaking prison sentence for a vile grooming gang from West Yorkshire. We'll have the very latest on that with our reporter Charlie Peters. But next, US superstar, Hollywood megastar, comedic genius Rob Schneider did not hold back when he was putting ITV's Good Morning Britain presenters in their place earlier today. He was determined to stick up for newly elected President Trump. He's actually come on our show and he's teed off again. So make sure you stay tuned for that.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
In 2020, after almost 80 years, Oxford University's Pitt Rivers Museum removed its famous collection of shrunken heads with sewn-up lips and eyes made by the South American Shuar and Ashwar people. How do museums decide what should be shown and what should be confined to storage? Can controversial exhibits be left on display with suitable contextualisation in captions? Who would want to be a curator facing such controversial questions? For review, I'm delighted to be joined by journalist Eitan Smallman. Welcome to GB News. I think many people, when they hear that we're going to discuss museums or art galleries, think that it's going to be, that wokery question. But it strikes me, and I think it strikes you too, that this is not just about wokery at all. There are some really interesting ethical questions here. For example, let's start with this one, and there are several examples of it. Should we be displaying human bodies, the remains of human beings? Should we be displaying them in museums?
Absolutely. It's not just the usual suspects, young snowflakes, who are objecting to these things. They're just naturally cultural shifts, and people of all ages and all political persuasions may feel uneasy about displaying human remains of any kind, especially human remains that have been taken against the will of the communities or taken violently. Hilary Mantel led a campaign to remove a 7-foot 7-inch skeleton of Charles Byrne, known as the Irish Giant, from the Hunterian Museum. He had specifically said that he didn't want to be displayed and didn't want to be taken by anatomists, and yet was displayed for a couple of hundred years until a couple of years ago. He hasn't had the burial he requested, but he's no longer on public display.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome along to Patrick Christys tonight. Now, earlier today, American comedian and Hollywood superstar Rob Schneider appeared on ITV's Good Morning Britain, hosted live from Washington, D.C. by Susanna Reid and Ed Balls. Now, the interview has since gone viral on social media after this war of words.
You're also saying that he was a misogynist and racist. I also heard that. I heard you say that. I did hear you say that.
Yeah, so Robert Schneider joined me earlier this afternoon, actually, to tell me all about that interview and much more besides. So here it is. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Hollywood and comedy legend Rob Schneider joins me now. Rob, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for making the time for us today. Now, you fell foul of Ed Balls and Susanna Reid earlier. You overheard them calling Trump a racist and a misogynist. Why did you get so offended by that? Talk us through what happened for you.
Because he just won the presidency, and like part of the reason is because the media's constant assault and slander against this gentleman who is now president of the United States. And, you know, we don't get 10 parties here. We get one more than China. So, I mean, we get 2 parties, the Democrat and Republican. Can we have 2? I mean, can we only have the Democratic Party? Because that was the plan. The plan is to fly enough people, open the borders, and flood the different states that still have a chance of voting for the other party that we're allowed. And so that we have these forever Democrat voting base. And I'm on first of all, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. They made me wait an hour, ITV. And then I'm on there and I'm listening to Mehdi Hassan, who is, confirmed, admitted homophobic. He compared homosexuals to pedophiles. He called them pedophiles, and he called non-Muslims animals. And this is the guy that they have on. And if he wasn't a liberal, they would have, he would have been excommunicated if he was a conservative. They would have Russell Branded him. So, I'm hearing that, and it's like, the incitement to violence is real.
Do you happen to know who Ed Balls is, that presenter that you were talking to? Because he is the husband of our current Home Secretary, the Labour Home Secretary. Yeah. And he's a former Shadow Chancellor, which is quite funny, really, I think, isn't it, when you think about, the potential bias there?
Well, he's certainly not coming at this as an objective person in the press, obviously. I found it to be, and he denied, because I said, I heard racist and misogynist, which is like, a perpetuation of this anti-American. The idea, which Mehdi absolutely did say, and I have it, I just tweeted it out. He did say misogyny, he did say racist, and Ed Balls denied it, and he lied. Either knowingly or on purpose. And the whole thing is about the idea that you can describe the defeat of the Democrats as misogyny. Is it just another slander against the American public? The American people have no problem voting for a woman, but they're not going to vote for somebody who was that nobody voted for in the primaries after being lied to and saying that Biden, for years was saying, this is the best version of Biden. He's sharp as a tack. So the Democratic elites lied, and they just anointed this person. And the American people weren't going to fall for it.
Elon Musk has fallen out with Keir Starmer. Donald Trump has fallen out with Keir Starmer. David Lammy, our current Foreign Secretary, has previously called Donald Trump a woman-hating, sociopathic, Nazi sympathizer and a misogynist.
Well, that's his way of maintaining Britain and America's special relationship, isn't it?
Well, what has to happen now, Rob? Look, what has to happen? Because we've got people like Keir Starmer, like the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, like our Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, who've all said these horrible things about your president. So what happens now?
Keir Starmer also called him a KKK and a white supremacist. So you guys, I would say to the British people, especially the British people are great, and I love them. And that's why I'm here with you this morning, my time. We have a special relationship with the British people. The British people are wonderful, loving, and kind people. And their goodwill is being abused by their government, allowing people to come into their country who don't love their country and don't wish to assimilate. That's a real problem for your country and for the West. And as Douglas Murray says, it is the Western civilization committing suicide. This is a rejection of the global elites, Donald Trump's presidency. And it is an opportunity for your leadership in Starmer and the Home Secretary to regroup. And I will tell you that Donald Trump is taking all the slings and arrows. I mean, he's been shot. They tried to kill him 2 times. He's been shot in the face. So he could take some insults, and he's going to let it go because he realizes that. And the good thing is, for us and for the world that this is a one-term president. He's not going to run for re-election. This is it. So he's not going to have the same constraints that most politicians have, where they immediately have to start after election. They immediately have to start campaigning and raising campaign funds for their re-election.
Yeah.
So he has an opportunity to do something. And also for the media and for the Democrats, this is an opportunity to regroup, recalibrate the hate, the rhetoric, and incitement of hate, calling people Hitler, saying this is the end of democracy. I mean, Trump was already president once and left. So the idea that, democracy's over, threat to democracy was what the Democrats have done, which is to say that, and this is coming from Kamala Harris and the Biden administration, working with tech companies to censor those that disagreed with the government narrative through tech companies. I mean, you had Zuckerberg from Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, apologize for working and allowing the Biden
just on that, Rob, just on that, mate, because it's a good point. Elon Musk has been very critical of our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. He's been saying there's two-tier justice, two-tier Keir. He's really been pushing that as well. He owns a massive tech company. He owns X. Do you think Elon Musk is right about our Prime Minister?
I think that raising these issues is important. If he's wrong, then let Starmer, let your PM tell us why and how. What's happening, though, is there is a squeeze, and it's happening in the UK. And I would just warn your viewers that that free speech is under attack in the UK, and it is under assault. And it isn't. It is not the beginning. It's the beginning of the end game for free speech in England. And I warn you that the government would love to kick out Twitter. And dissent is the cornerstone. It is the very fabric of democracy. And having to defend your policies is the job of government. And defending the rights for your citizens to speak and not imprison them for what's called hate speech. And that's the thing about free speech. Free speech is all speech. It's the socially acceptable stuff is not the stuff that needs protection. It is the stuff that could be lies, that could be hate speech, but it is up for the people to decide. Because if the government or any agency or fact checkers decides, they will always choose and shrink democracy and shrink free speech in favor of what benefits the government narrative. And so that is my warning to the UK. And that has been rejected in the United States. And I think this is a great opportunity to regroup in the UK and reclaim your free speech, because it is under attack there.
And Rob, thank you very, very much. And just for the sake of, while we're doing this as well, the whole reason this interview came about is I managed to call Rob like 20 minutes ago. You were about to hop on a jet, quite literally, to LA, I think, and you've said, look, you'll hang around where you are and you'll make time for us to do this interview. So, Rob, thank you so much, mate. Great to see you, great to meet you, and hopefully we'll see you again very, very soon, and maybe get you in the studio one day.
You guys have done great work, and you're an inspiration to me and your free speech. I hope it continues to grow, and I hope that the people of England appreciate you and continue to support your network.
Thank you, mate. All the best. Rob Schneider there, the absolute legend. You take care and enjoy that flight to LA, my good man. I won't keep you any longer. Goodbye, Rob. Thank you. All right, so look, Rob Schneider there, the Hollywood megastar. So a couple of minor points to clarify here. It was not David Lammy. It was. It was David Lammy and not Keir Starmer who called Trump a racist KKK and Nazi sympathiser. We did also ask ITV for comment on Rob Schneider's claims. They did not respond, and you might have heard an individual mentioned there called Mehdi Hassan, who is not here to defend himself. But if he was, I imagine what he would say is that Rob had not quoted him directly, and in the many years that have gone since he may or may not have said some of those things he's accused of, he has subsequently changed his views and apologised. Right, coming up, tonight's panel returns to whiz through the very first newspaper front pages, hot off the press, but big serious story coming your way. Charlie Peters, our roving reporter, is going to be with us. He's going to join me live in the studio to expose a sick grooming gang who have been handed record-breaking prison sentences in West Yorkshire. Stay tuned.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather forecast, coming to you from the Met Office. It's going to stay pretty cloudy, but generally dry as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. We still have high pressure dominating our weather. It is to the east of us, but nonetheless keeping things pretty settled, and any weather systems to the west of us are staying at bay. But with that high pressure, we have a lot of cloud. That cloud is going to be quite thick, could be quite low in some places, some hill fog through tonight in a few places, and also some outbreaks of drizzly rain. The greatest chance of any clear skies will be across northern parts of Scotland and the far north of England. The cloud will keep things pretty mild, temperatures for many staying in double figures, so a mild grey and for some damp start to the day for many tomorrow. Some places will have some sunshine through the morning, particularly northern Scotland. Some breaks in the cloud quite likely here. Across more central western parts, thicker cloud and a bit of drizzly rain quite likely, especially over any higher ground. Further south across Northern Ireland and the bulk of England and Wales, it is looking like it will be another grey, gloomy start to the day. There could be some hill fog around, perhaps not as much as we saw through today. Nonetheless, there will also be a few outbreaks of drizzly rain. Nothing heavy, and any drizzly rain shouldn't last particularly long. Most of us will actually avoid it, but yes, there could be some damp weather around. Staying cloudy, still just the best chance of any sunshine will be across the far north of Scotland, perhaps North Wales and eastern England. In the sunshine, not feeling too bad, and generally temperatures on the mild side, highs in the mid-teens for many of us. Spot the difference when it comes to looking at Friday. Again, lots of grey, cloudy skies across the UK. Still some sunshine breaking through, again, towards the north of Scotland, northern England, North Wales, the best chance of catching any sunshine. Staying pretty similar as we go into the weekend. Another grey, mostly dry day on Saturday, and staying that way on Sunday in the south, but further north we may see some wet and windy weather for a time.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Now, very shortly, we're going to be hearing from our reporter, Charlie Peters, as a grooming gang got record sentences today. But before that, I'll whiz you through the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. We start with the Metro. America's golden age, they say. Trump comeback shocks the world. The Independent. The greatest comeback in US political history. Trump's stunning victory. It's quite really positive, that, from the Independent, in a way. The Telegraph. Trump's clean sweep. President-elect wins powerful mandate as he takes Senate, popular vote, and every swing state in unprecedented political comeback. The Daily Mail, I've got here. Why Kamala Harris didn't get the women's votes she thought were in the bag. That's from Sarah Vine, one of their top columnists there. Their actual full headline is, "A comeback to Trump all comebacks." In the end, it wasn't even close, they say. How do you think The Guardian have taken it? American dread. There we go. So, there we are. In case you're wondering, yes, The Guardian is fundraising at the moment, and you can donate if you want to keep them in office for, or keep them in print, as it were, for another few years. Anyway, moving on from that now, this is a story that I was desperate to bring to you. It's a very serious one, so, you know, strap yourselves in. 20 men face a combined total of around 219 years behind bars for raping and abusing young girls after a series of trials. It can now be revealed the 20 men were convicted of sexually exploiting 4 girls between the ages of 12 and 16 in Calderdale in West Yorkshire. There's a lot going on here with this case. I am going to let our reporter, Charlie Peters, fill you in on the details here. So, Charlie.
Well, Patrick, these allegations and these convictions relate to abuse that occurred from 2001 to 2010, and the investigations were launched by West Yorkshire Police in 2016. But due to the fact that many of these gangs and perpetrators were interlinked and much of the evidence was associated with several trials, legal restrictions were applied from the very start to ensure that safe legal processes could be secured. And it has meant that 20 men, it can now be revealed, were jailed for a combined total of 219 years. Now, as you can do the basic maths, most of those sentences are about 10 years each, but there is one sentence of over 20 years for one of those perpetrators from West Yorkshire. The vast majority of the offenders of Pakistani heritage from Halifax, but there's also another offender from Bradford. And this comes as the widespread discussion about national grooming gangs continues, with Robert Jenrick, now the Shadow Justice Secretary, saying earlier today to GB News that grooming gang perpetrators should be jailed for life. Now, some of these offenders that you're seeing on your screen now were given sentences of 11 years for convictions of rape and also threats to kill. Now, just as this news has come out today from West Yorkshire Police, I've been able to reveal today that there are also a set of reductions of sentences in Rotherham. 2 offenders, one man called Abid Sadiq, on the left in the red circle, and another, Mohammed Siab, had their sentences reduced after a judge made an error at a sentencing in Sheffield Crown Court earlier this month in September. Sadiq's sentence was reduced by 3 years to 21 years. He was convicted of raping a girl under the age of 13, and Mohammed Siab had his sentence reduced by 1 year to 24 years. So a sentence reduction there for those offenders, despite claims being made and demands being made by Robert Jenrick, that Shadow Justice Secretary. I can also reveal that one of the survivors in that trial who brought forward those allegations and gave evidence and actually gave a victim impact statement in the court was involved with an altercation with the relatives of those perpetrators at Sheffield Crown Court this week. I've been told that those relatives were staring down this survivor in the court when they intervened, and when she intervened, the judge removed them, but there were allegedly threats of violence outside the court soon after. Now, I'm told that officers from the National Crime Agency who led the investigation and also court security intervened, but a very significant situation to occur as 2 grooming gang perpetrators have their sentences reduced.
Charlie, thank you very much for coming on the show. I mean, obviously incredibly difficult and harrowing subject matter, but it's important that at least one news outlet anyway covers it in detail. Charlie Peters there, thank you very, very much. Right, a couple of separate cases there for us. Let's deal with the first one first. Some of those sentences, it sounds a lot, Mark, when you add it all up, 219 years. But as Charlie was saying there, some of those sentences are for multiple counts of rape and for threats to kill. And if you're getting 11 years, which what will that work out as? 5.5? Probably.
That's right. You've got to bear in mind that the likelihood is, not the certainty, but the likelihood is you only serve half the sentence.
Disgusting.
So, you take the number that Charlie's just explained given in court, and more or less, your best guesstimate is they serve half of it. So I'm rather with Robert Jenrick here. I think we've got to change our approach to prisons and incarcerating people, probably putting in fewer people to prison for longer. If you've got a kind of minor drugs offence or something, I'm not sure I'd lock you up for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So I'd like the space to be much more available to lock people up for 20, 30, 40 years or life without parole.
OK. Go on, Adam.
Look, let's remember, the grooming gang scandal is probably one of the biggest scandals of my lifetime. We had authorities and people in power that reached all the way up to number 10, covering things up and intervening just so people weren't labelled racist. We had girls raped, UK girls raped, because the authorities would not step in and turned a blind eye. This is a disgrace, and I hope they rot in prison and they never come out.
So let's just stick with the sentencing thing, I think, really. I mean, there is another point, which is that, as Charlie was saying there, remarkably, in a separate case, it appears as though some family members of one of the people who've just had the sentences reduced were staring down a survivor, and there were threats of violence outside, which, I mean, you know, that it really is disgusting, really, if that's true, which I have no reason to doubt. But you know, those sentences, I mean, what message does that send to someone who can conceivably act with impunity for years and get away with it until they eventually get caught, if they get caught, and then 5 and a bit years? I mean, is that enough, do you think?
I think it's disgraceful. I mean, these poor girls, it's always just broken my heart because nobody has taken care of them. And it was done, I think, the lack of sentencing before was done for probably a very altruistic reason, completely misguided. I completely think that these people should be jailed and jailed possibly for longer. I don't know why the sentence is reduced. Maybe it's some legal thing we know nothing
technicality.
about.
Yeah.
But the point being, we also have to deal with the situation that we have no space in our jails. We don't have space to keep
Stop locking up people for online hate or online hurting words.
My solution to that would be, generally speaking, don't lock people up unless you're going to lock them up for several years. You know, don't lock them up for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months.
Incitement to violence is never to be encouraged and also to be punished.
We could be, yeah. I mean, another solution might be to build more prisons, I suppose, wouldn't it? Right, look, bit heavy subject matter, to say the least. Thank you very much, because you had that thrown at you. Thank you very much to Charlie again. I just thought it was important to get that out there. When we come back, we're going to be showing you some more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. And in something a little bit lighter, we'll be revealing today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. So don't go anywhere.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're talking about Gareth Southgate and his proposed honour. There's a lot of rumours going around saying he's going to get a knighthood. So people like Nana are saying to me, why?
Because he hasn't won anything, has he? Look, I'm not a big fan of football. I watch England and the big matches, but he hasn't won anything. I mean, like, he hasn't actually won anything. He'll be following in the footsteps of people like Sir Alf Ramsey, Sir Bobby Robson, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What has Gareth Southgate actually won?
Right, don't ask me. Let's ask our guests on this. So, has he truly earned the right to do this? Should all England managers, should you become an England manager and then get a knighthood as a result, or is that devaluing the honour? There you see on your screen to debate this, Harry Harris, top football writer, and royal commentator Angela Levin. She knows a thing or two about all of this. Angela, what do you think?
I think absolutely not. I mean, I know he's a good example to people, but he's a sort of almost. He's almost done this. He's almost won that. You can't have someone to have a knighthood if you're an almost. You can't. This is someone who does the most amazing things. This is a hero. This is a serviceman. It's not somebody who does really kindly and looks after his people, and it's just not fun. I think it just diminishes the whole thing of giving people such a high level of gratitude.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Final couple of front pages for you here. We're going to go with the Eye. They go with landslide, straight down the line there from the Eye. Trump wins White House, Senate and popular vote in historic comeback, and a picture of him and Melania. Let's go to the Times now, the final paper of this particular roundup. Trump promises a golden age after sweeping Harris aside. Victor returning to the White House more powerful than ever. And he is, I suppose, and he's also not got to worry about being re-elected again. So this is it now. So, you know, he can you just crack on, I suppose, can't he?
Well, just one last thing to look for. It takes forever in America, Patrick, but he's won a landslide. It was not close. The Republicans have re-won the Senate. Are they going to win the House of Representatives? That's going to take a few more days, and that looks a bit on a knife edge. If that stays in Democrat hands, That is, some people would say, a welcome check and balance on Trump. If it goes to Republican hands, well, then as of January next year, the Republicans really can push forward a radical agenda because they'll control the executive and both legislative
You
arms.
said it wasn't a knife edge, but it wasn't like 70-30. It's 51-47-48. And that means that America is divided pretty much in half.
Yeah, as it always has been. It's usually that sort of, 3% is usually the sort of margin that somebody would win by. But it was not sort of counting the hanging chads in one county.
I remember fondly the hanging chads.
Gosh. Well, there we go. OK, so I believe that we've got a little bit of time now to let a popular segment breathe. It's time for Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. So, Mark, who's your Greatest Britain, please?
This is honorary, and there can only be one choice, can't there? It's Donald J. Trump, the 45th president, soon to be the 47th president. Love him or loathe him, you cannot possibly ignore him. And I think it was, I can't remember which newspaper had the front page saying this, but it might have been The Independent, Patrick. This is, on any objective level, an unbelievable political comeback. I mean, I'm trying to think what the equivalent would be here. It would be something like Jeremy Corbyn becoming Prime Minister or Nick Clegg becoming Prime Minister. This guy was finished after 2020. And, whether you're happy with the outcome, disappointed or nervous, this is truly spectacular.
I mean, even just a couple of years ago, it really didn't look like it was going to happen.
No.
So there you go. Sorry.
Mine is also honorary. It's Elon Musk, and there's a lot of viewers that are going to agree with me here. If he hadn't bought Twitter and set the bird of free speech free, we probably would not be seeing Donald Trump in the White House. The man has allowed, news that we would never see on the mainstream media. He's allowed the truth to get out. He backed Trump and he backed the right horse. And now, for the West, I'm excited for the future rather than worried.
He might be the next Republican president.
Yeah. Twitter has become a sewer. X is a complete sewer. And I don't know how you can say that has set the West free. It has not.
I'm very popular on there, Nina, to be fair.
Well, you proved my point.
Shots
great.
fired.
X is great.
Right
X
at the
is
end. Go on, Nina, who's your Greatest Britain?
Mine is also honorary, so that's 3 honoraries tonight. And it's the great late Quincy Jones, who died this week at the age of 91. And whatever your taste in music, in the last decades, he has affected all of us and given us all pleasure. And I want to say thank you personally for that. I think he was a wonderful man and a wonderful musician.
Well, look, all incredibly strong choices. I think he's got to go to Trump today, right? So there we go. That's that. Who's your Union Jackass?
Well, so many to pick from, Patrick, but picking up your theme throughout this show of the liberal lefty media, who to choose, I finally settled on Emily Maitlis because although there were vast numbers of left-wing pundits and presenters who lost their minds, she also lost her cool to the extent that she started swearing and her co-presenter said that he was going to tick her off and apologised on her behalf. So it could have gone to any number of 8, 10 or 12 presenters, but I think Maitlis wins the gold medal.
All right, strong start.
Right, my nomination is the UK Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, for his past tweets about Trump. Not only were they childish, they were defamatory and unprofessional, and I think he's put the future relationship of these two countries at risk.
It was potentially quite short-sighted as well, wasn't it, really, given what could have happened and indeed now what has happened.
It was childish.
Which is the nightmare scenario. OK, Nina, go on.
King Charles and Prince William, as exposed by the Sunday Times, who have, through the Crown Estate, the Duchy of Cornwall and Duchy of Lancashire, have been making money, the vast amount of money, over 20 million each per year. And, OK, think fair enough. But on the back of the NHS, on prisons, from schools, they cream it. And also charities. So charities that they represented, like Red Nose Day and Marie Curie, every time they fundraised or appeared at the head of them, they were making money.
OK, all right. Today's winner of the Union Jackass, it's going to be Emily Maitlis for the old swearing on air.
2 out of 2.
It is. I know. It could have gone David Lammy. I think
she was pure entertainment. I've got to say, she was pure entertainment.
I think I've done Lammy a couple of times already. So, right, we're going to go over now to headliners this evening, which was presented by the wonderful Cressida. Cressida, so what have you got coming up on your show this evening?
Good evening, Patrick. It's going to be a great show tonight. We will, of course, be discussing discussing the US election. You won't be surprised to hear that. I've got a great panel tonight. I've got Steve N. Allen, headliner's favourite, and Count Dankula as well, who's a rare treat. We have had him before. We're having him again tonight. We're going to be talking about the impact of the election on Prince Harry, and we're also going to be talking about how it affects Sadiq Khan. So tune in.
Fantastic, Cressida. Well done. Lovely stuff. It's always a tremendous show. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. See you tomorrow.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. It's going to stay pretty cloudy, but generally dry as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. We still have high pressure dominating our weather. It is to the east of us, but nonetheless keeping things pretty settled, and any weather systems to the west of us are staying at bay. But with that high pressure, we have a lot of cloud. That cloud is going to be quite thick, could be quite low in some places, some hill fog through tonight in a few places, and also some outbreaks of drizzly rain. The greatest chance of any clear skies will be across northern parts of Scotland and the far north of England. The cloud will keep things pretty mild, temperatures for many staying in double figures, so a mild grey and for some damp start to the day for many tomorrow. Some places will have some sunshine through the morning, particularly northern Scotland. Some breaks in the cloud quite likely here. Across more central western parts, thicker cloud and a bit of drizzly rain quite likely, especially over any higher ground. Further south across Northern Ireland and the bulk of England and Wales, it is looking like it will be another grey, gloomy start to the day. There could be some hill fog around, perhaps not as much as we saw through today. Nonetheless, there will also be a few outbreaks of drizzly rain. Nothing heavy, and any drizzly rain shouldn't last particularly long. Most of us will actually avoid it, but yes, there could be some damp weather around. Staying cloudy, still just the best chance of any sunshine will be across the far north of Scotland, perhaps North Wales and eastern England. In the sunshine, not feeling too bad, and generally temperatures on the mild side, highs in the mid-teens for many of us. Spot the difference when it comes to looking at Friday. Again, lots of grey, cloudy skies across the UK. Still some sunshine breaking through again towards the north of Scotland, northern England, North Wales, the best chance of catching any sunshine. Staying pretty similar as we go into the weekend. Another grey, mostly dry day on Saturday, and staying that way on Sunday in the south, but further north we may see some wet and windy weather for it.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could win Christmas on us this year. There's cash, £20,025 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also £5,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £500 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag. For another chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Catherine Richards and Jake Singleton-Hill featured on the reality show Love is Blind.
Well, Catherine and Jake are joining us now in the studio for Saturday Morning Live. Thank you very much for joining us. And this